right, welcome back. I hope to do this pretty quickly. I'm sorry that one lasted so long. Um, I want to I want to walk you through this just so you can see how you're not alone if you come across a poem and some questions that you just don't get. That's completely understandable. It's okay. You just have to learn to work past it. And I'm going to show you how I worked past this one because I had that experience where I read it and it just wasn't speaking to me and I'd never really studied this poem before. Let me read it to you once. Sonnet 55. Not marble nor the gilded monuments of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme, but you shall shine more bright in these contents than unswept stone besmeared with sluttish time. When wasteful war shall statues overturn and broils root out the work of masonry, nor Mars his sword nor war's quick fire shall burn the living record of your memory. 'Gainst death and all oblivious enmity shall you pace forth. Your praise shall, shall still find room even in the eyes of all posterity that wear this world out to the ending doom. So till the judgment that yourself arise, you live in this and dwell in lovers' eyes. When I first read it, I had a hard time identifying who you was and who he was talking to and who was talking to him. And I got to the first question, who or what is the speaker of this poem? And I kind of froze. Okay. So what I did was I read all of the questions and I skimmed all of the questions and the responses because sometimes that will help give you a framework with which to work. And I noticed that they were asking questions about who's the speaker. I mean, I saw a lot of different responses about a lover. Obviously, that's going to be kind of your first response. A lot about memory, a lot about time, a lot about uh, posterity. And so I kind of got my bearings a little bit, and then I next tackled. Okay, I know it's a sonnet. What do I know? That's kind of what I answered. What do I know? I know that it's going to have something to do with probably a lover. It's going to have something to do with time. Sonnets almost always do. And it's going to be in the form of a sonnet. So I started with the form. And I knew that it would end in a couplet, okay? That would kind of have the so what. And then I knew it would have three quatrains. And so I determined that's the first quatrain. I just counted 4 lines. Second quatrain, third quatrain. And that gave me a sense, kind of just a framework to work off of. And just doing that helped me kind of relax and get my bearings. And then I just looked at one, I did this with an index card. I looked at one quatrain at a time. And then I was able to calm down a little bit. And I read it like this. Not marble, nor the gilded monuments of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme. Well, I thought that was the poem. But you, and I noticed I did a question mark, I wasn't sure yet, shall shine more bright in these contents, these being the poem, than unswept stone besmeared with sluttish time. I'm thinking that these are the monuments. And I thought that's a really weird way to say time. It reminded me of Ozymandias, if you guys remember that poem by Shelley. So I kind of, at this point, guess, well, we're talking about a poem and we're talking about a lover, maybe a friend, I'm not exactly sure. I looked at the second stanza. When wasteful war shall statues again overturn and broils, like fighting, root out the work of masonry. Again, we're still talking about things being destroyed. Nor Mars, god of war, his sword, nor war's quick fire shall burn the living record of your memory. And by the time I got here, I recognized two things were going on. He's talking about this poem, the Sonnet 55, being this thing that will live on. And the subject of this poem is going to be the love or the love that he has for his lover. Okay, and then it kind of just started making sense. Okay, against death and all oblivious enmity shall you, and every time you, I thought, well, that's the lover, pace forth, your praise shall still find room even in the eyes of all posterity that wear this world out to unending doom. This one was the hardest stanza for me. I didn't quite get it yet, so I just kind of questioned it and moved on. So, therefore, till the judgment that yourself arise, you live in this poem, you live in this and dwell in lovers' eyes. This is the so what. So I had a better idea at this point, and then I was able to answer the questions. I wasn't as certain on this one as I was about the chambered nautilus, but I kind of started putting some pieces together. Number one, the best answer is D. The speaker of the poem. Who or what is the speaker of the poem? It's D. He's a lover and he's a poet. It's never gonna. not never, but it's very rarely going to be the poet himself. You is who he's talking to, friend of the poet. All of these, this one, and this one, are really better answers for the second question. To whom is the poem spoken? So I process of elimination, and I had kind of figured it out. That's the correct answer. Number two, the poem is being spoken to an idealized friend or a lover. I took Queen Elizabeth out of the mix right away because that would never have happened. The reader, no, he's not addressing the reader at all. It's you. Okay, and I wouldn't be living in his poem forever because that's silly. He wasn't writing anything about me. The Dark Lady, that was meant to kind of throw you. If you know anything about Shakespeare, you know that some of his sonnets deal with the Dark Lady. So that was kind of a red herring. And there's no instance in the poem about the woman being either beautiful or coy. So you've got A and E as possible answers, and A is the best answer. Number three, which of the following best describes the theme of the poem? I went ahead and you can see I just scratched out the ones that I knew weren't right, that just didn't have any explanation or any basis in the poem. War is wasteful and destructive. That's not the theme of the poem at all. Poetry can never be a destructive force. That doesn't at all apply. Memory lives on. A poet can overcome death. These, I can see how these might be decent answers, but this one again is more developed. And it will outlast. This is the key right here that got me, that made me answer it. It will outlast material things. Okay, and all the material things mentioned in here, the monuments and masonry and the statues. That's what it keyed into me, that's what they were going for. Okay, number four, I messed up. I'm not gonna lie, I got it wrong. I put C. Which of the following best identifies the subject of Sonnet 55? I knew it wasn't death and love. I knew it wasn't the oblivious enmity. They put that in there because I'm guessing, and you saw I did too, I wasn't quite sure what enmity meant. Okay, it was kind of vague to me. So they put that in there to try to kind of grab us. I wasn't, I didn't really pay much attention to. I was stuck between B and C, and I kind of just went with C, the immortality of lovers. They're saying the best answer is B, the memory of the speaker's beloved. The subject of the sonnet is more about the memory of the speaker's beloved rather than the immortality of lovers. I do see the theme of immortality in the poem, but now that I look back a little bit more closely, it's not that the love or the lovers will be immortal. It's that the love between and the way that the beloved will be cherished through the poem. And so B makes more sense, even though I got it wrong. So there you go. Number five, I got stuck. It's one of those, and sometimes I'll do this, and I should have done this. I should have squared it to make sure I come back to it because I didn't. Okay, and this might happen to you on the test as well. The question was asking about all but one, some little red flag questions, are mentioned as powers of destruction in the poem. Which one is not mentioned? I knew it wasn't these three. Okay, because they were clear, they were easy to find. Time, death, war. I was looking for these two, and I was struggling between these two. Unfeeling nature is the one that nowhere is it mentioned at all. Malevolent, okay, like intentionally mean, bad, like maleficent. Malevolent forgetfulness is referenced right here. Against death and all oblivious enmity. Talking about the record of your memory, like against trying to be forgetful, people trying to be forgetful. So A is the best answer. I probably would have gotten that wrong on the test only because I didn't come back and make my choice. I was between A and E, and you can't have two answers. Number six, the correct answer is C, the illusions in there. Again, you can kind of go through and just process of elimination and cross out. These, I love these questions because they're pretty easy. Both have to be present in order for it to work. So if you see that one is not in there, you can cross out the whole question. So C is the best answer. Number seven, the living record of your memory is the poem. Okay. None of the rest really makes sense. Diary's not in there at all. Again, journal, same. They're going for the same thing. They're both wrong. Ending doom. Why would that be a record of your memory? That doesn't make any sense. And this is like jargon. That doesn't make any sense. A is the only one that really makes sense to the context of the poem. Okay, eight. Eight's another one. I did make my choice here though. I'd written my answers out on another piece of paper. So this one, the correct answer is C. The ending doom is referencing the apocalypse described in the Bible. it's C and E are the two best answers. I think the reason C is a better answer. Okay, because the ending doom, so till the judgment, and it's talking about the world and posterity. I think they're close enough to where it's a more specific answer than war and destruction. War and destruction was mentioned higher up in the poem. Okay, almost done. Number 9, the best answer is E. Here's that term that when we looked at the first time and thought it was strange, sluttish time. When he uses this term, he is going for something. He's going for something that means ruin. Yeah, the things that we associate with sluttishness. So wastefulness is not necessarily part of that. Horrors, well, I guess it depends on the, never mind. Time ruins everything eventually. Time is an immoral woman. Okay, this, maybe some of you put that. Time is indiscriminate and wanton when it comes to destruction. You have to, two different things. It has to make sense to the term sluttish, and it has to make sense in the context of the poem. This is a better answer than this one because that may have to do with sluttish, but this has to do with the combination of the term and the meaning of the poem, if that makes any sense. Lastly, number 10, the best answer is B in the couplet, which is going to be the end, last 2 lines. Okay. In the couplet, the speaker argues which of the following. The couplet is always going to be his so what, his follow-up argument, the last thing he wants to leave you with. The summation of the poem has nothing to do with God of War, has nothing to do with this God rising again, has nothing to do with time being the ultimate destroyer. So you're left with B and D, okay? And what's the takeaway from this poem? The beloved will live on in the sonnet end in lover's eyes, or that poetry is important, okay? This one is the best answer. This actually is kind of a sub-answer to B. Because poetry is important, the beloved will live on in the sonnet in lover's eyes. So B is a more full answer. All right, I hope that helps. Let me address one quick thing before you tune out. Make your corrections on that one, and then you're just going to resubmit that. I'm going to create an assignment, a second assignment in haiku. Just resubmit it, and I'll just check to see that you did corrections for the ones you got wrong. That's fine. They don't have to be any longer than the ones I showed you. On the test, on the poetry test for the multiple choice, you will see something very similar to what I just did with you. And you will also see one more section, and it will be a poem where instead of really analyzing it, you will be asked to identify the meter. You'll be asked to identify some of the rhymes, internal rhyme, end rhyme, what kind of end rhyme it is, and you'll be asked to identify the form of the poem. Okay? So as you can see, there were a couple questions that dealt with that in this. On these questions, but overall there weren't very many, but there will be a short section with maybe, I will say, 5 questions. So if we're dealing with about 25 questions, you can expect an additional 5 questions just on the meter, the rhyme scheme, and the form of the poem. All right, I hope that helps, and I really hope to see you guys again soon. These Cyber Days are killing me. Adios.